Happy Tuesday, sports fans, and welcome back to FNN Sports Take with me, Kasey Hudson. I hope if your week hasn't already kicked off strong, you can kick it off strong with us this evening and then take on the rest of the 3 days like, well, we all hope to start Mondays. Per usual, we're kicking off with the NFL because it's just the thing to do. And, of course, we start with some Bucs updates. We had the opportunity of hopping on our, at this point, weekly press conference call with Coach Bruce Arians from the Tampa Bay Bucs and asking some questions, as we know that the guys have basically hit what we would call a phase 2 into training camp. The pads are on, and it should feel so different right now because things that guys would typically practice in the off season, they take some opportunities to get padded up. That little, small camp, not rookie mini camp, but that small camp after guys get drafted, rookies come in, vets return for a minute. They throw on some pads for a second, and then they take about a month and a half to, 6 weeks off, and then it hits real training camp. Well, the guys are finally getting that taste again of real football. So, of course, we had to ask Coach Arians, how's the offense and the defense looking? Because he made a comment last week so far to say that, it's really hard to evaluate things right now because offense is kind of just working with offense, defense is just working with defense, and the game changes when that contact, part of a contact sport, gets involved. So he said he really likes what he's seeing. He's like, for the boys to just be throwing on pads, there's a really good ebb and flow for them to be just getting started in pads. Now, when we asked what position group may have stood out more for him in terms of course, I don't think we would expect to hear anything else, but he said the secondary not only looks really good, but they're already doing such a heck of a job back there. So it's really good to have that established confidence out the gate with them. A really funny question was, we know that everybody is very excited about the additions of Tom Brady and Rob Gronkowski and the connection that they're going to have on that field that can help out the Bucs so much. But it was great to hear that, after a year off, and we heard Gronk in a conference when he first joined the team say, he's now decided to start listening to his body. He feels the healthiest inside and out that he has ever been. And maybe that 1 year is something that his body just really needed, not something, retirement-wise that he needed to commit to just yet. And I think Coach Aaron could say the same thing. He said Gronk's shape, he's like, football-wise, he's in football shape. He has no doubt about that. He's already seen, the hype, or not the hype, because we know that Gronk does Gronk things, but we've already seen the things that Gronk is capable of in such a short time in a limited capacity. He goes, but I don't think he's in Florida shape yet, which stirred up a lot of laughs because it's like, when you think about these guys and when they transfer to different teams and, everything that goes into it, we get so caught up on the transitioning of getting to that team and the moving and where they decided to locate and their teammates, and all that stuff. But we hardly think about the drastic difference of maybe playing up north versus playing down south versus playing East Coast or West Coast. So Coach was saying, I think it's going to take a little bit more time for him to get in Florida shape because he is sweating like crazy. And if anybody has felt the difference between working out outdoors here in Florida and working out, more so up north, that humidity is a whole different factor that you have to count in because it's going to change how you control your breathing. It's going to control the depths of your breath. It's going to control how much you sweat. And if you're not prepared to sweat that much, you're going to over dehydrate faster than you would think to. So yeah, I can only imagine that from New England to here, it's probably going to take him a minute to get acclimated to Florida. Now, he didn't really mention if Brady had the same kind of situation, seeing as how, Gronk did have that year off and Brady did just play in New England and is now playing in Florida. But I am intrigued to ask him that maybe as a follow-up question, the next opportunity that we get the chance to hop on that press conference call with him. Now, we know that a lot of the rookie additions, they're going into a very hard training camp and, a hard first season because they're not getting that extra edge or opportunity to learn 4 or 5 months ago when they first joined the team. A lot of their learning is really going to dial into now, and it's still different than the opportunities you particularly get with no preseason. That's your chance to make those mistakes and to really learn from them in a quote-unquote game experience rather than it being an actual countable game and you really taking that hit a bit harder. So Coach Arians said last week, he's like, I really feel for these rookies and these young guys because this is a very hard time. Not having a preseason is going to affect them. And he feels like they're having to learn on overload and it's very overwhelming. So it's like you're trying to slow things down in a learnable manner, but speed it up at the same time so that everybody's on the same page when the season kicks off in just a couple of short weeks here, which is crazy to even think and grasp. So one of the top guys everybody wants to know about because a few of his rookies have either just dealt with COVID themselves, they're working through an injury, which he doesn't want to discuss. So the one healthy guy that we know would probably have more of a starting or a larger role to come out the gate would be Tristan Wirfs. And he said, you know what, for a rookie, he's really not making any mistakes. There's no mental errors going on out there. He's like, if anything, the concern is, pad levels. And he's like, when it comes to pad level, that's where your preseason is a crucial situation, because that's a huge learning curve or opportunity to situate your pad levels. He's like, this is a contact game. If you're up too high, you're getting knocked off your game, and then immediately you're putting us in a vulnerable position to just hand over our offensive opportunities, or defense, really disrupting what our defense would be capable of. So this is kind of the second or third time that coaches mentioned pad levels, so we see the significance of it, and not to mention where his mind is when it comes to the importance of things that he needs the guys to focus in on, especially his linemen. So best of luck to Tristan on that, trying to figure all that out without a preseason. Something that he's looking forward to eliminating this season. The biggest mistake he felt like they made last year is pre-snap penalties. He said we just had way too many pre-snap penalties last season, and it worked against us on nearly both sides of the ball, if you think about it. But he's confident that Tom Brady can help with that, and as a team, they plan to minimize it, but that important role that the quarterback plays can also help minimize that. And we've heard guys, when we talk to the defensive players on the team, aside from asking them about the Tom Brady effect and are they in awe or are they over it, they have all mentioned that having a strong, capable quarterback in that pocket is also going to help with the defense not being overexhausted or overplayed on the field, and field positioning, which is so important. If you think about what our defense did last year, they were really good at containing run games. There was really only 1 or 2 games where the run game got away from us, and that was the Arizona Cardinals and the Titans. Derrick Henry, he's a massive running back who's going to do that if he finds those gaps. So the Bucs have a lot of pieces in the right place. It's going to come down to execution, and that's basically where most of those guys' mentalities are. Now, we also got a chance to catch up with O.J. Howard, and we know that when he was first brought onto the Tampa Bay Bucs tight end squad, is what I'm going to call it for now, that he was kind of expected to play a larger role very fast out the gate, and that didn't really happen. And then when it came to the, switching hats and Coach Arians being there, Coach Arians says that he runs a very difficult scheme. So he understands that some guys, they just have that ability to catch on and run with it. And other guys, they really have to take that studying to the next level. And Howard even mentioned it himself, that last year was a bit of a struggle to get on the same page and learn everything. But he feels more comfortable and more confident with Arians' playbook and offensive style now. Like I said, Coach mentioned it's a difficult scheme. So Howard said that he feels like he's getting the hang of it. Arians backed it up by saying that he also feels like Howard is learning a lot. And Coach also mentioned that he feels like Gronk is making an impact on O.J. Howard, because when you have a guy who has the accolades under his belt that he does, and the reputation that he does, and the leadership that he does, it's not just a compliment when they tell you you're a good player, but it also says something. So it ignites something in you to want to work up to or maintain and work off of that standard that somebody has now complimented to you. So he feels like the fact that he gets to bounce off of Gronk, the playbook, and learning and diving in even deeper, but Gronk actually thinks that he's a good player, and he tells him that, and he feels like Howard's very receptive, and it's helping to motivate him and get his game going that much more. So he's very confident in the role that Howard will play this coming season, and so is O.J. Howard. He says he just can't wait to execute this season and get it going. Now, one guy that was interesting to talk to was Anthony Nelson. We know that Nelson, again, another guy who was kind of brought in, expected to play a large role. He kind of dealt with an injury, which he himself said, was a setback, and that was a struggle to mentally be like, I'm progressing here, I have something to prove here, and then for it to be taken away because now you have to, change your frame of mind to healing and getting through an injury, and then coming back to diving into playbooks and logistics and being ready to make an impact on that field. But he feels like he's ready. And Coach also said that he's having a heck of a camp, which means the injury is behind him. Now it's just time for him to execute everything that he's been studying and learning, and his teammates had the same thing to say about him. His name probably came up 3 or 4 times across 5 different press conferences between Coach, the assistant coach, and other players on the team, what Nelson's doing during camp, and his bouncing back from the injury has been something that cannot be ignored, which means he is somebody we could probably look forward to making an impact on that defense this year for the 2020 season. We can also expect him to have a larger role this year, not only because he's ready for it, but because Carl Nassib, we know, got sent over to Las Vegas. And, he was even asked about what's it going to be like to fill his shoes, because Nassib is a force to be reckoned with on that defense. And, I really loved his answer, because he was like, look, he has a lot of things that I could learn from, and there's a percentage of that I want to, commit to putting into my game. He's like, so I'm going to take, the great things that I learned from him and that I know that he'll be doing over in Vegas, and put my own spin on it, which I think is what every player should kind of, or probably commits to doing, taking tips from legendaries or greats, or just, hard workers, and putting their own niche on it. So that's exactly what he said he plans to do in terms of filling the shoes of Carl Nassib. He doesn't look at it as filling the shoes, just kind of executing the good things that he did and putting an Anthony Nelson spin on it. So he also mentioned the fact that, and if you guys know, the Bucs have a very prominent defense, and they have an opportunity to be one of the best defenses in the league. So what's it like to have those guys to feed off of and bounce off of? And he's like, it means a lot. If anything, he feels like that aided his recovery and his bounce back that much more, because he has such great minds to, again, feed off of and learn from. And at this point, it's just focusing on learning and executing everything that he's bouncing off of his teammates. Then another defensive player we got to speak with was Jason Pierre-Paul. Now, if you guys didn't know, he had a small procedure, I think just a couple of weeks ago. But, of course, we had to ask how he felt about that. And he said he actually feels really good, just a little limited at the moment. But he knows he's going to be back full force by the time season and everything starts, if not by the end of training camp. And a really good question, because we know that Shaq Barrett is like a huge name that gets talked about when it comes to the Bucs defense, and being an undrafted free agent, making the impact that he did on the field in the 2019 season, and then now here. And I think with any accomplishment that people make, the follow-up question is, how are you going to accomplish that or better again? And his answer was fantastic. What you did the year before doesn't matter. You're always fighting for your job in this career, and that's very true. You can never confirm that you're going to duplicate an achievement or exceed it the next year, because you just don't know what your circumstances are going to be. If you had somebody that you feed off of, or a specific player on the team that aided your ability or your plays, and they're gone, that's going to throw you out of whack. So there's always a counterpart that can throw everything out of balance, or just, change the circumstances. So he was just saying, you can't talk about the year before. It's a new year, and we have to see what we're willing to do with the opportunity at hand, and you just have to have the mindset that you're always fighting for your job. But nonetheless, he's very excited for this season, because it's the first season with the Bucs where he gets to play from the beginning and execute an entire season. And he says, I'll actually feel like I get to say I went to war with my brothers, and that's something that's going to mean more to him than kind of assuming or calculating anything else. He wants to be there from beginning to end, fighting and riding out with his teammates. Now, if you guys didn't realize that, he kind of played a different position when he was up there with the Giants. So he made a notion to say, look, I'm still learning myself, because people want to know, okay, with how many years you've had in the league, and with the up and coming that Shaq Barrett has had, is he coming to you? Is he learning from you? What's the case? And he's like, you know what? We learn from each other. I think we both just have this hungry, motivated mentality, and it just, again, feeds one another, and we just both go for it. We're both trying to be dominant on that field and make an impact and help our team and help our teammates. So, he also said he's still learning himself. He's pretty new to the outside linebacker position, and working in a 3-4 defense is still something he's getting acclimated to. So he's learning, Shaq's learning. All the guys are kind of on the same page, to where they're just kind of building and growing and executing. Now we asked, are you guys going to be the best defense in the league? And I feel like a lot of players would kind of jump at the opportunity to be like, yeah, duh, look at all the talent that we have on our team. And they do. There's a lot of talent on both sides of the ball when it comes to the Bucs. It would almost be pitiful to think any mistakes can be made with this team. But the best point you can almost make to a question like that is, we will be the best defense if we put the work in. Pierre-Paul said that he is a firm believer that you get out what you put in. So if they put the work in, not only in training camp, but in this season, every single game, every single practice, they can and will be the best defense in the league. So you guys let me know, with all the talent that the Bucs have, with most of these guys going into a second year with one another, and having that comfort and having that confidence underneath Coach Arians' playbook, will the Tampa Bay Bucs be the best defense in the league? Shoot us a message or comment below. I would love to dive a little deeper into this topic. And of course, like I said, last week, we're going to start breaking down position groups and just kind of rating it, who are our top 5 guys and what are they going to contribute to the team and where is this going to put these teams in this 2020 season. Now, something else to just add quickly to the Bucks updates is that Mike Evans took to social media, but being mic'd up and out loud, he basically said that Brady's already become one of his favorite teammates. He's a legend, and he's going to do legendary things on the field, which means it's going to translate into Mike Evans' career. Well, I think that's safe to say across the board. Anybody a part of this team with Tom Brady or anybody who has played alongside of Tom Brady and who has made an impact on the field can kind of say, I learned from the best, I executed from the best, and now I'm in the conversations of the best in a way. Mike Evans kind of has an edge there because he was already getting such praise for what he does at the wide receiver position. So it's like, I cannot wait to see what those connections look like between TV and ME. Browns running back Chubb is on concussion protocol, so at least it's not a COVID update, but hopefully he has a speedy recovery and is able to start back with his team here shortly. And Saints offensive lineman Peat will be out 2 to 3 weeks with a thumb injury. So that's it on our football conversation. Stick with us as we go to a quick commercial break, and when we come back, we break down NBA and NHL.
At Duke Energy, we deliver electricity and so much more, like free home energy assessments, rebates for energy-saving improvements, payment options to help you better manage your budget, and even bill credits for helping the community use less energy. So no matter what you're doing, we can help you make better energy choices every day. It's just another way we bring power to your life. How much can you save?
All right, guys, so just a quick NBA update. We know that they're working through their playoff system. We know that Celtics Hayward is out for 4 weeks with an ankle sprain. And then Jazz guard Conley could be back for game 3. So that's something to look forward to. Now, NHL is going to dive a little bit deeper. We know that they are also in playoffs, but their playoff system is on the intense side. We know that guys are fighting hard through this round 1 of playoffs in the bubble, and with that comes injuries and, the series leads going back and forth. So as for the Hurricanes, who we know have been a very, very, very intense team to play against, they have, a lot of young players are extremely skillful. They skate hard, they skate fast. And to be skilled and to be able to defend as well, because their defenseman, Dougie Hamilton, they just have a very full package effect when it comes to playing them. But I would have never guessed that the Bruins would have taken the lead in the series against them. Unfortunately, Svechnikov will be out for game 4 versus the Bruins after, if anybody caught this, he was, one-on-one with the guy up at the net, trying to transition into either deflect the puck in or just contribute to a potential goal. And I don't know what happened. He turned around and it just looked like the leg at some point just did not go with him, or it was just like it was a bad blow. After I saw it the first time, I couldn't watch it a second time. And I'm not somebody who's like grossed out that easily. And that one I couldn't watch. So hopefully it's nothing too bad. Sources have not released or confirmed exactly what happened, but we know that it is a lower body injury. And we don't know 100% when he will be returning. Now, Blues star Tarasenko, I struggle with some of these guys' names. Tarasenko is leaving the bubble after his injury. Again, depending on the extensiveness of the injury or the recovery time, at that point, there's just no point in these guys lingering around in the bubble. Now, part of what contributes to this is that as soon as guys, I guess they still have an opportunity whether they are going to opt out of the season. We know that the Bruins' usual starting goalie, he actually had to opt out of the season, and sources have not released what that reason was, but he opted out. And then now conversations are stirring up as to whether he'll even be returning to the Bruins next year. But it seems like guys can still opt out of the season, and anyone who obviously has to leave the bubble or won't be playing in games will be asked to leave the bubble. But this contributes to the fact that the NHL has reported yet another week of 0 positive test for COVID, which is fantastic, because at this point, I think the guys know that because they have to be there and they have one focus, which is just keep playing through these rounds. Most of the guys you hear in these post-game or pre-game interviews, they're just saying that they're having a lot of fun. It's like camp. They have movie nights, they play soccer, they play basketball, handball, all of it. So I think everyone's on the same page and mental focus as of now. Now, for me to nerd out, and one of my favorite topics is our Tampa Bay Lightning. And you guys were with me last week on Friday when we discussed game 1 and game 2, which was super intense. Game 1 went into 5 overtimes, one of the longest games played in NHL history. And thank God, by Braden Point, they ended up winning that long, basically 8-period game. Game 2 wasn't exactly the same. Now, game 2, they kind of fell into some old patterns where they tend to give up leads, and then they're playing catch up, and then it's just a lot to try to overcompensate for. Once you give up one period, then, especially now with the competitive atmosphere that you're in, you can't really let up. So they fell short 3-1, and then they turned it up for game 3 and game 4. I am extremely happy to report the Lightning actually take a as of these past 2 games, they're up by 2 and leading the series versus the Columbus Blue Jackets. Game 3, they won 3-2, thanks to Killorn, Point, and Hedman. Now, one of the big differences of that game is the fact that Stevens got pulled, not from the roster, but got pulled from the lineup, and Carter Verhaeghe made his postseason debut in the bubble, and he made a big difference. Verhaeghe has a tendency to just get in the right places at the right time. He's very smart at where he's playing the puck, and he put it in very, very particular places, which kind of helps set up more plays. That's where we were kind of struggling, is the Columbus Blue Jackets did a very good job the first 2 games, and part of the top of the third game is forcing the Lightning to play against the perimeter. Now, not saying that they're not good at playing against the perimeter, but where I think the Lightning kind of get shaken up or a little scattered is when they're forced to play a game outside of what they planned for. So when they're pushed out to the perimeter rather than choosing to play on the perimeter, you can see the difference in their play. And as soon as they got pushed out to the perimeter, that whole central play opportunity just really went out the window. It was hard for them to get in at the net. It was hard to have somebody coming up the center to try to finish off any of those pucks that went up to the net. And that all changed game 3. They came out controlling the game from beginning to end. Well, I can't really say beginning. The first 10 minutes was 3 power plays by the Columbus Blue Jackets and then a 5-on-3. But somebody made a good point to say that if you can't execute on 5-on-3, chances are you're probably going to lose that game. And they did very, very well at managing the 5-on-3 situation. And then after that, they just really, really grinded it out. So, again, Carter Verhaeghe made a huge difference, and he also assisted Victor Hedman's goal. And then Killorn and Cirelli, that pairing has always been something that stood out since, Cooper created that line. And what was really significant about Cirelli is that the way that he skates and his precision on the ice, he helps to create turnovers or interrupt the passing lane. And he just happened to do that. He interrupted the pass. He got it off to Killorn. Killorn looked like he was going to pass it back to Cirelli. And as soon as he saw the goalie bite as if he was going to interrupt the pass, he went for a backhanded goal and got that score. So that was great work for game 3. And then as for game 2, that was something that really, at first, it looked like it could have been anybody's game. The Blue Jackets obviously came out a little hungrier looking, but the Lightning were very much there and playing their game. So ozone time kind of seemed very split up. It came down to, neutral zone and check. And at that point, the Lightning started to do a really good job of, again, getting back in the center, getting up to the net, creating opportunities to score. But it's that third line. They started every period 1, 2, and 3. It's Goodrow, Coleman, and Gord. And they just have a synergy about them that kind of lights up the rest of the line. They do those shifts, those line changes and those shift changes. And, of course, it was those guys that made the difference in the game and got them 2 goals and secure the win. But when they get out there, I didn't realize, although I've become more of a fan of, the additions of Coleman, Goodrow, and Bogosian. I always say his name differently. But it's, for some reason, I've never watched Coleman play before he joined the Lightning, but for his size, he's very scrappy and very physical. And what we were kind of lacking was having that physicality in those forward or winger positions. We were kind of relying on our defense to just be that muscle, quote unquote, or the physicality of the team. And then Maroon came in and he was kind of there, but he's been working through some injuries, which could be a default to how physical he is actually going to play. But Coleman is a physical body out there, and he helps so much with that. And Goodrow works so well along the boards, and he really tries to force those opportunities to get closer into the net, and it really worked in. He bites and fights for those pucks when they get loose anywhere around that net, and thankfully it paid off for him. It was one of those games that you watch and you just knew, like, you had these names in your mind that were like, if they don't score today, they're scoring next game. You just knew it was coming. So congratulations to Goodrow, Gordon, and that whole third line. They're really upping the ante for how everybody is operating. And our defense is one of the top defenses because they, between Hedman and Shattenkirk, even though he's a new addition, they score, and they're starting to take more shots on goal. So I'm sure one of our defensemen besides Heedy is going to end up getting their first postseason goal as well. So we got game 5 tomorrow. It's so crazy to think of how fast this is all going on. Game 5 tomorrow at noon. And if the Bolts win it, they secure the series. If not, then of course we're heading into another game, I believe, on Saturday. So stick by to see how this all plays out. Hockey's just super intense, and it really is anybody's game until you seal that final deal. Stick with us for another quick commercial break, and then we come back and break down some MLB and soccer.
We wanted to move back home to be closer to his family. We decided to go with pods because things were stressful enough.
We weren't sure how long we were going to need storage for, so we needed something that was flexible, and then they can deliver the container to wherever we move to.
We haven't found the perfect house yet, but we're still looking.
Okay, so the good news with the MLB is that we're not giving you, a list of 5 COVID this and COVID that. MLB has started to find a little bit more momentum into continuing their season. As I said a couple weeks ago, I didn't even think it would get this far. I thought that it might get canceled, but it hasn't. So Yankees, Stanton disappointed over latest injury, which is putting him out and missing an opportunity to be there for his team. Padres, Tatis throws Rangers for a loop with a grand slam late in the game. See, you're never supposed to get ahead of yourself. And Corey and Kyle Seager are the first pair of brothers on opposing MLB teams to hit homers on the same night, same game since 2001. That's something that parents can definitely be proud of. I don't know what kind of jersey you make for that, but I would make something aside from just the boys' names on my back and the team split that says, my boys know how to hit homers at the same time or something. I don't know. You want to come up with something crafty for as legendary as that's about to be. Now for our soccer updates, we know that the MLS wrapped up once they did their final Orlando City versus Portland, and Portland took that one. And while the boys are recovering and getting ready to transition into their next season, we go across the pond. Arsenal's hopeful to have a $22 million deal for Lille's Gabriel Magalhaes. I enjoy pronouncing these names. Either way, Arsenal's really trying to kind of add to their depth. I know in terms of when they are short a guy or when they start doing substitutions, and if you guys know, due to COVID, substitutions have changed overseas, you kind of need those backup names have to be just as significant, and they have to start rotating out their starters and get new star players for that team. So hopefully they'll be able to acquire him and come to a deal on his contract. As for Manchester United and Manchester City, they're actually being given a summer extension, summer break. They're going to be added an extra 30-day break, so they will not be participating in the beginning or the opening Premier League. They've actually been granted to take that extra time to themselves. And Tottenham signed goalie Joe Hart after a free transfer. Now, if you guys have followed Joe Hart's career, a couple years ago, he played for Manchester City. I don't remember what team he just wrapped up with. He's kind of done some bouncing around, but how much time does Joe Hart have left in his career? And is he still making that significant of a difference in the goal? I want to hear some feedback on this one because there is some soccer talk that we do need to dive into, because as the MLS is kind of trying to figure out where their expansions can go and when they can start resuming certain things due to all the financial restrictions from COVID, there's going to be some people heading back over to Europe or heading over to Europe to get those seasons in. We know Christian Pasalic was a big one for him to head over to Chelsea. So where do you guys see Joe Hart, in the future or a year from now? I think he's only signed with them for about a year. So is he going to hang up the cleats after this year, or is he going to keep transferring teams? Where does he go? And, where would you like to see Joe Hart go? Guys, that is it for me tonight. Per usual, stay safe, stay sane, stay kind, stay compassionate, and wear your mask. I hope everybody is enjoying sports being back. Let us know what your favorite sport is to watch now that there's, actually options and variations out there. Or if there's something you want us to dive a little deeper into or pull the analytics and stats on, that's something I love to do. So whatever is something that you really want to get into, shoot us a message, shoot us a comment, let us know. Other than that, stay safe, and we will see you guys Friday at 8 p.m.